Hello and welcome to United for Good. I'm Margaret O'Neill with United Way of Central West Virginia. So glad that you're joining us today. I want to, as always, thank the Library Television Network and the West Virginia Library Commission for allowing us to be part of their programming. We are in the December month, quickly approaching a new year, and so first we just want to say thank you for a wonderful 2024. Our United Way has served thousands of people, made people's lives better in lots and lots of different ways. And all of that's because of you as a donor, somebody who trusted us, a volunteer who worked with us, somebody who participated in Day of Caring, somebody who bought a duck, somebody who showed up at Dancing with the Stars or supported one of our dancing couples. The only way we can do what we do is because you help us serve our communities. And so as a reminder, we do serve Kanawha, Putnam, Boone, Logan, Clay, and Braxton counties, truly the heart of Central West Virginia. You can find us, as you see on your screen, on our website at unitedwaycwv.org. It'll tell you a lot of information about how you can become part of the solution in our communities as well by becoming a donor to our United Way. We are a 501c3 nonprofit, tax deductible to you if you itemize your tax returns, and we'd be honored to have a more in-depth conversation with you about your charitable giving if that's something that would be interesting. Always feel free to reach out to us or stop by our office. We're on the corner of Court and Smith Street in downtown Charleston, right across from the water treatment plant. And we would love any time for you to come in and visit and meet our staff, meet our team, and meet the person you're about to meet right now on our TV show. So I'm so excited to welcome to our show Dejen Bryant. Welcome, Dejen.
Thank you, Margaret.
The first thing, we'll talk a little bit about Dejen's responsibilities at the United Way. She's actually an AmeriCorps member, so she serves at our United Way not as an employee but as a volunteer through National Service and AmeriCorps. It's LifeBridge AmeriCorps' 30th anniversary this year, so we're certainly going to talk about all the great things that LifeBridge does. But when we talk about service and we talk about all the things that our AmeriCorps members do at the United Way, I think you really get a good sense of the many different ways that we touch a community. So certainly we touch our community through our funded partners that you can always find on our website that are included in those impact areas of health, education, financial stability, and our safety nets that really focus on life's everyday challenges, but potentially sheltering or domestic violence, or you need a little help with your rent or utilities, those kinds of opportunities. But in addition to that, there is so much more that happens behind the scenes. Oftentimes people don't even realize that we're doing the work that we're doing. And many days when you walk in the United Way office, Dejen's face will be the first one that you see. So welcome to the show.
Thank you.
I want to start by saying you're not from here.
I'm not. I'm originally from Colorado.
And so the biggest issue we had at the office when Dejen joined us was nobody could pronounce her name. It took us all a good 6 or 8 months to figure that out. And my husband has recently this weekend said, "Tell me her name one more time." And so Dejen is beautiful, but you were new and different to West Virginia.
I am.
Do you want to say anything about what brought you here and why you decided to stay?
Well, I just wanted a new scenery, still something with mountains and a little bit closer to the ocean, but not too close to the ocean. And I said, well, let's go to West Virginia.
And we are so glad that you did. And so you're about to start your 3rd year of service as an AmeriCorps member.
I am in my 3rd year, yes.
3rd year, all 3 years serving at our United Way. And so I want to start first, just talk about a little bit about AmeriCorps service. So what that's meant to you, some of the things you've enjoyed as far as LifeBridge is concerned.
So with LifeBridge AmeriCorps, I've served at United Way of Central West Virginia for 2 years. I'm on my 3rd year now. Absolutely love it. It means a great deal to me because not only have I been able to connect with the community, I've also gotten to learn the needs out here in West Virginia with folks. And just being able to be hands in deep with our community, with the gas crisis, taking the calls for 211, being able to deliver food to someone that is in need of food that doesn't have transportation. It means a lot to me. And serving as a volunteer at United Way, what better way to get in better with our community?
And so you do see all of that as someone. So if you're listening as a nonprofit and you think, man, I'd like to have a Dejen in my office, how do I go about getting a member or an AmeriCorps member? And we can certainly help you with that. We sponsor the AmeriCorps program. LifeBridge is in our office. Angela Collier and Mindy Robinson lead that work for us, and we're happy to connect you. But the beauty of it is we have to tell them what we want a member to do. So we write a concept paper as the sponsor organization, as the United Way, and we said we'd like a couple of things. We'd like some help answering 211 calls, and Dejenne's going to talk a little bit about that in a minute. And then we also need some help with our financial stability piece, because we're always worried on how we can most impact people in a positive way when they're struggling, potentially working paycheck to paycheck, and taxes and budgets and those things can just be overwhelming sometimes when you're just trying to figure out how you're going to get to tomorrow. And so we're going to talk a little bit about how Dejenne got involved with My Free Taxes, and that'll be coming up in the first of the year, and you want to make sure you get an appointment for that. But let's start with when you first become a LifeBridge member, you have to go to training.
You do.
And is that fun or awful?
Oh, it's a lot of fun. It's a lot of fun. It gets you out of the office. You get to know the other individuals that are serving our community, not just in our 6 counties, but they serve across West Virginia. And so we get to connect with other agencies that we typically wouldn't be able to connect with on a daily basis, and we get to know the needs out that way, and we can cross-reference and share resources that way with other members that are serving. So not only does it benefit our United Way, but it also benefits another agency that's probably in Roane County or Wirt County or somewhere far away from us.
But doing great work.
Yes.
How many times do you have to go to training?
I think it's 4 times out of the year.
And you learn, they have programs. I know
Yes.
I've been a program, but you learn stuff, right?
We do. We learn a lot of things. We have different agencies come in and give us like Narcan training or AED training or this is not about drugs trainings and things like that. We get to do a lot of building together, team building that we normally don't do in the office with everyone else that's serving. But in the group that we get to go to for 8 hours and do our trainings, we get to build with them and eat and just network with a lot of different agencies that they're serving at.
I'm a firm believer that LifeBridge service, AmeriCorps service, has led to some of the finest employees and staff at our United Way than we could ever have dreamed of. Many of our team has gone through the AmeriCorps program and some through the VISTA program. We anticipate that you might be one of those that finds their way to a long-term employee position at the United Way. But in addition to your training, you also have to do service projects. Talk
Community
a little bit
service.
about that. Yep.
So Martin Luther King Jr.'s service project is just coming up, and we're doing a food drive. And so what we get to do is we get to choose the agency that's probably most in need, and we get to band together and do a food drive. And so we're going to start that January 12th, and then we'll end it about January 29th, 30th, and we'll get to choose what agency we want to take the food to.
And if somebody wanted to participate in that, will you be sharing that on our Facebook, social media?
Correct.
Great.
On United Ways, LifeBridge, mine, and everyone else's.
Okay, so look for that coming up in January if you'd like to participate in the food pantry donations. And I think that's a great segue to the challenges that we've seen. We'll start with Christmas and back up. So the challenges we've seen this fall with just an enormous number of people reaching out for Christmas assistance.
For Christmas, yes. We've had a little over 2,500 applications.
And those are households.
That's just households. That doesn't include the children in that number.
So we anticipate well over 3,000 children have reached out through the Christmas Bureau. So
Yes.
if you're watching, just a quick explanation of the Christmas Bureau. And so years ago, smart people got together and said, if providers of Christmas gifts and food to people in Central West Virginia banded together, that we would be able to share the list of people receiving assistance and therefore cut down on duplication of assistance to particular a situation. And so the Christmas Bureau has been operating out of the United Way office for many years. Dejenne and others have helped operate that this year. And so when she says, over 2,500 applications, that's a family saying, I don't have Christmas food or toys or both for my family, and here's how many children I have, and here's the situation that our household is in. And then we have providers across the valley who take kids and are willing to go out and spend the money and buy the toys. And there have been, gosh, I don't know, is there 8 or 10 providers involved? Maybe 6 or 8. I might be getting a little skippy.
I think there's 8. We've found a couple that we would like for them to join with us.
So if you're listening and you're like, I'm one of those people who buys toys for kids, or our organization does that, we would love to have an early 2025 conversation with your organization, because the more of us as providers that can work together, I believe the more children that we'll be able to serve in our community. So if you're out there and you're like, I'm somebody who collects money, or I take names, or I participate in buying stuff for kids for Christmas, let us know about that. And we would just love to share with you about how the Christmas Bureau works. Talk a little bit about 211.
So 211, we operate 211 out of the United Way office. So I'm in-house Monday through Friday, 8 to 4. I answer for 6 counties. I also take calls right now for another 6 counties. And so what I do is I hear the need, whether it's food, electric, gas, sewer, clothing, there's a house fire or a disaster. I hear the need and I try to assist them with the need, but not only the need, but I hear that, if they pay this electric bill, they won't be able to provide food for that household for that month. So I also get them some food resources as well.
And so, Dejen, let's talk a minute about, first of all, let me give you a quick 211 tutorial. So 211 is West Virginia's Information Referral Network. It answers calls across West Virginia 24/7, 365. People need help at midnight. People need help on Thanksgiving Day. People need help when they have a house fire. So we're answering calls all the time. Dejen, again, is in our office, and so she has the ability, if someone calls 211 and needs assistance that only could be provided from the United Way itself, she can literally cross the hall or walk down the hall and talk to Carrie Cooper, our Community Impact Director, or myself, and make arrangements to see what assistance we can offer for families. What we can tell you is there are some demographics that Dejen and team collect.
Correct.
And I think one of the things you and I have been talking about lately is the change in income level for callers. So can you share a little bit about that?
So beginnings, when I first started as a LifeBridge AmeriCorps member, beginnings were $1,000 to $12,000. And that was pretty much the higher end of the calls.
So people who really had very little
income. Demographics just this year have changed a bit from about 12,000 to 25,000. In this last couple of months, we've had callers actually making $100,000 that are saying, hey, I can't pay this electric bill and I can't buy groceries. What do I do? And so these are the folks that really don't know what to do.
Because probably first-time caller.
First-time caller, they don't like asking for assistance. So I give them the reassurance, say, hey, it's okay. It's all confidential. I don't ask you any demographic questions besides what I need to ask you. I don't ask you any identifiable information. I just want to get you.
We never ask a name unless we need to call you back for some reason.
Yep, I just want to help you and hear you and get you the resources that you need. So our demographics have changed quite a bit. I would say the callers are from anywhere from making $35,000 to $75,000, with a few here in between that make $100,000 to $200,000.
And so I wanted Dejen to share that with you as listeners, because sometimes there's the perception that only people who have that very minimal income are the ones that are reaching out for assistance. And I think all of us have felt the inflation changes and challenges that we've had in the last 12 to 18 months. And I can share with you that those families who are working sometimes 2 or 3 jobs to make that income level, because they're potentially taking care of 4 or 5 or 6 children. Some of them may be kinship care, some of them may be foster care. And so what I would hope you would learn from that is that there's no reason not to call for help or assistance. And if we can't help you for whatever reason, we're going to share that with you. But rarely is there a time that we can't make a referral.
Correct.
Right?
Yep.
So so talk a little about that database and how that works.
So with referrals, I hear the needs, and then what I do is I look at the agencies, depending on what the restrictions are for that agency. I would give them referrals, and sometimes I follow up with that family because they're afraid that they make too much money to get assistance, and so I want to make sure that they've actually been heard from another agency. And so with our database, we hold a little bit of everything. And I feel like it's a miracle when I go in to look for something and I say, oh, I don't think that'll be in our database, but it's definitely there because it's not a need that I typically hear every day. And so it shocks me when I actually see that need is in the database and I can give that family that resource.
So here's your on-the-spot question, because everybody has one when they come on the show, and you may not know the answer, but what would be your weirdest thing somebody's asked for that you found a resource for?
Well, probably not the weirdest one. Oh, that one's hard, Margaret. I would have to say, let me come back to that one.
You can think about that. I can tell you that there are calls that we don't have resources for. And so the other part of 211 that is super valuable is that we also track unmet needs. So as Jen and the team answer calls and they go to that database and they so desperately want there to be something there and there's not, they can check the box that that was an unmet need, and then those numbers, that data is also collected for us to potentially reach out to other nonprofit providers, to other folks in the community who may be doing nonprofit work and say, you know what, we've had 100 calls for this, or we've had 25 calls asking for this particular type of assistance, and we just don't have anything in the database that can help. Can you stand something up, or can you start something? And we tend to be the ones that do that sometimes, and especially around disaster work. And so we can kind of, morph into that. So there's the regular day-to-day 211 calls that are your personal disaster, when you just need some assistance and you need some help figuring out how to get out of the pickle you're in.
Yes.
And then there's disaster.
Disaster.
Which is completely different than the day-to-day 211 calls, and sometimes are very challenging because that's a very fluid situation. When we have floods in a part of our service area, as we had in Eastern Kanawha County a year and a half or 2 years ago, when floods come, when tornadoes come, as we've had, this past summer, and then last year, just a little before this time, when we had a pretty significant gas outage on the west side of Charleston.
Yes.
And so, talk a little bit about what disaster calls feel like.
Well, they're a little overwhelming sometimes, but we still handle it and the whole team steps in. So Margaret was taking calls, Carrie was taking calls. We all just worked as a team that day. And so we got a rhythm down for our calls that day, and we were taking addresses, names, and we were delivering heaters. And so I think majority of us didn't leave the office till about 8 or 9 sometimes from the gas crisis. And so we still meet, we do our 211 calls the regular way, and then we had a legal pad that we were writing names and addresses down. And we just made sure that they had enough food, because not only was their gas just out, but sometimes they weren't able to cook, heat up their home, and just different needs. And so we were writing down the needs, so if you can't cook on your stove, what can we throw in the microwave that would feed you and 5 kids? Do you have enough blankets to cover up with and cover your windows to keep the heat in and let the sun in during the daylight? And so disaster calls are a little bit different, but we do survey 1, 2, 3 for West Virginia VOAD, and then we put the needs on there. We upload photos for them as well. And then we call back to the caller to make sure that someone has met their needs. And then we just continuously follow up until we have gotten out of the crisis.
Till we know everybody's okay.
Yeah, and we do boots on the ground. So during the flood, we actually went to the floodwaters after it receded, and we went neighbor to neighbor to make sure that they had their needs met as well.
And the beauty of that work is this: people in the community know the United Way. And so if there is that disaster, when the West Side experienced their gas and water outage last year, I'll never forget, I was in a parking lot delivering with Carrie. We were delivering food in a neighborhood. It was already dark. We were struggling to see addresses, and my phone rang, and it was the leadership of Huntington Bank in here in Charleston. And the gentleman said to me, I understand what's happening, and we want to make a contribution. So the beauty of it is the trust and relationships we have with our business associates, friends, and partners. We're often the organization that people want to donate that money to because they trust us. We don't take an administrative fee off of those disaster dollars, and they know that that work is being done directly in the community. So while I'm sitting in the parking lot talking to Chad saying, yes, we appreciate your contribution, we were literally using the money he was giving us in that moment to deliver a heater, to deliver blankets, to deliver cases of water, and tons of support. So support from the city, support from the utility companies that were involved, from city council members that were in that part of the county. So our reach is broad and our relationships are strong. And so it's really helpful in disaster for people to know that they can reach out to the United Way, and that through people like DeJean and others, we're going to make lists upon lists, call back until we make sure that, the majority I think that we saw were seniors.
Yes.
That were really struggling to be able to get out of their home and get what they needed. And it was very dark and very scary, and there were holes everywhere in the street as repair work was being done. And so that's something that we're very honored to be able to do. And there aren't very many organizations that can do what we do in a disaster situation because of 211. So we're really fortunate that we have that number and that people can be directed to that for very specific services.
Yes, yes.
Okay, so we've talked about disaster, we've talked about Christmas Bureau, now just general 211 calls. And so in the year, we were just talking about it this morning, so in this year, it looks like we're going to approach just over 6,000 calls.
Correct.
How's that make you feel? How's it make you feel that at the end of the day, at the end of the year, that over 6,000 people got something they needed because you were there to answer the phone?
It makes me sleep a little better at night. And
Me too.
To top your number, Margaret, I went back to when I first started, and I'm a little over 18,000 calls
In your career.
in my career here at
That's
United
awesome.
Way.
So that has to feel good
It does.
and a little bit emotional.
Yeah.
So we were also talking about, because you do hear from the easiest fix, right? I mean, sometimes the call is a super easy fix. Here's 3 referrals. It's not a lot of money. We feel confident that situation's going to get resolved fairly quickly. And then other times, someone like our friend, our guest that walked in a couple of weeks ago was a little more difficult. So talk a minute about that.
Because it is just me, my calls, sometimes get a little overwhelming. And sometimes some folks have to go to voicemail and I give them a call back. This young lady was next on my call list to call her, and she come into our office, and I was getting her the resources from the office, and you happened to walk around the corner, and as I was getting ready to look up, I just seen gator tears, and you've seen them as well. And so with that, just feeling that pressure, seeing the tears, because sometimes we go home crying too. We just don't say it. But just seeing those tears and the emotions coming out of that woman, and learning a little bit more about her story. She's a single mom. Her fiance just left. Her job was given away to someone that she had just trained, and so she's living off of unemployment right now. And when her ex left, she was left with a huge pile of bills.
And was going to be evicted.
And was going to be evicted
When
that
it was
day.
about 13 degrees outside.
Yes.
With a kid.
Yes. And so she didn't know the laws that the landlord had to give her a 30-day notice, take her to court. The landlord called and said, hey, when would you like me to put your stuff out? And so just hearing that from her and then being able to educate her that she does have rights as a tenant, and then seeing my president and my community impact director band together and say, hey, we're going to make sure that you're taken care of, that gave me a great deal of hope, because not every day do you see an agency pull together like that and just make sure that woman and that child right before Christmas isn't going to end up homeless. And so that one still makes me teary-eyed because just because of the fact that we were able to help her. And she was just so grateful of the resources that we gave her. Not only were we able to help her keep her home, but I think we also got her connected with resources for maybe potential employment.
Yeah.
And so just those little bits of things, changes the world for somebody when it's just our everyday life. We go through it every day with individuals, but that one individual person, her whole life just changed in 3 minutes. And she walked out not crying. She walked out with happy tears, but knowing that she's going to have a place for her family to go home to. She's going to have Christmas presents. She's going to be warm, and possibly be able to start employment again.
And so our whole goal, if you watch the show at any regular time, or you just pass through and you catch us, you've probably heard me say this before, but our goal at the United Way is for anybody and everybody to work, right? To be productive, to pay taxes, to pay bills, primarily to take care of their children and their families and be able to buy their own groceries. And when we see people who have worked so hard and done everything that society has asked them to do, it can sometimes be a real emotional thing for us to figure out how we can help them. And I'll say again, we didn't help her with donor dollars. If you're out there and you're a workplace campaign and you're like, my dollar a paycheck, I work really hard for that, your money goes to those impact areas of health, education, financial stability. This money was available to us through a grant that we were able to offer some assistance directly, and then we had partners and others who were able to add to that to be able to support this young woman and her child. But the point I would say is this: if you're struggling and you're trying to figure out what to do and you don't know where to go, and it's terribly cold and it's a tough time of year, please don't hesitate to reach out either directly to us at the United Way or anytime, anywhere to 211. And somebody like DeJean is going to answer your call, and you're going to hear that empathetic voice, or she's going to be there sitting at the desk when you walk in, as this young woman did. And instead of, yelling or cranky, we're going to be like, oh my gosh, how can we help you today? And for us, the beauty of that is, as a team, I think all of us went home that night pretty grateful and pretty appreciative of the things that we have in our life and in our homes, and the ability to just share some resources with somebody that really made an impact on her life was huge. Is there another story you'd like to tell? That was pretty intense. Sorry.
It was
Is
pretty
there
intense.
a happier, less intense story you'd like to share?
Well, we recently just had a veteran call for food. He's pretty cranky with all the other agencies. With my past experience with military men, I was able to calm him down. We were able to get him Instacarted food. And so he now regularly calls me Monday through Friday sometimes just to talk. And so I've gotten him connected actually with senior services for the reassurance line, so that way he has someone to talk with every day. Someone that can hear him and make sure that his needs are being met as a veteran.
And sometimes it is just that. And no veteran should be hungry or homeless. So for those of you who are watching who've served, we're so grateful for your service. And please reach out if that's you or you have a struggle. Real quick before we run out of time, I just want to give you a chance to say anything that you haven't said or that we haven't talked about.
I love the United Way. I do.
Well, I didn't pay her to say that.
I do. I am just so grateful for the opportunity that I get to serve at the United Way as a LifeBridge AmeriCorps member, and it has changed me a great deal in the last 3 years. It's opened up my career for myself, and if you haven't thought about serving as an AmeriCorps member, you probably should.
Yeah, and if you're that person who's just getting out of college, or you're not sure what you want to be and you don't want to go to college and you don't want to incur a lot of student debt until you figure it out, service is a wonderful way to discover your passion and also the things you don't like. We've had members who work with us who go, ooh, and ooh, this is not, I don't want to be a social worker. I thought that's what I want to do, but I don't have any desire to do that. Yeah. There are others who thought they were mean and cranky and they work for us and they're like the most empathetic people you'd ever want to meet, and they immediately go into long-term service commitment. Yes. So give us a try. We're happy. Call DeJean. She'll connect you to Angela or Mindy and make sure that you know how to serve and what you get as a stipend and the some school support and all the things that you get. Really quick. EITC, so My Free Taxes, that starts when and people can come get their taxes done?
I believe the note on my desk says start calling me around January, and we'll start making appointments for the beginning of February to April 15th.
So if you would like to get help with your taxes for free, you can reach out to us at the United Way. We have trained staff, professionals that will help you. We do evening appointments mostly.
We're doing Mondays and Tuesdays this year.
In the evening, you can come in, and while you're getting your taxes done right there on the spot, DeJean can talk to you about what it looks like when you get your refund back, and if there's ways we can help with budgeting or connect you to somebody that can help make your finances feel a little bit more like you've got control. We're happy to be able to do that.
Yes.
Anything else?
No.
You're the cutest. All right, so if you can't figure it out, her name is DeJean, and if you call, we call her Dee sometimes, so you can do that too, but DeJean will be the one to help you with 211, and she'll be the face you see when you walk in the door. It is my great honor to be with the United Way of Central West Virginia and to help share a little bit about LifeBridge AmeriCorps and how wonderful that service program is. If you need anything, please don't hesitate to reach out to us at the United Way of Central West Virginia. It would be our pleasure to help you and to serve you. And until next time, I'm Margaret O'Neill with the United Way of Central West Virginia. Happy holidays and Happy New Year.